everybody. Hi and welcome back to yet another episode. I'm Faith Brynel and welcome back to another episode of Faith Brynels Insights. Now, today's episode is really interesting to me and something that I'm really passionate about, and that is about time management. So more specifically, the episode is titled Mastering Time, Your Ultimate Guide to Effective Time Management. And so I was thinking about, what I could podcast about this week, and by the help of God, I've actually decided to talk about time management. Now, you'll notice that this episode is not out on a Thursday. It's been released today, Monday the 26th of February. I know that it's been a little late according to our usual podcast schedule, but that is just the beauty of life. As you all know, I've recently started a master's in law conversion from having read politics at King's for 3 years. I'm now doing a master's. So I actually had formatives, exam, and a coursework that was due last week. So I prioritized that, which is actually one of the methods I recommend to all of you, which is the Eisenhower matrix, where you actually prioritize things that you have to do then, things you don't have to do then, etc. So at that particular moment of time, I decided that it was best and more profitable for me to, prioritize my academic studies and then record another podcast episode. Then life happened. Unfortunately, I don't know why I'm laughing, but I sprained my knee, and so that was something that happened last week as well. So here we are. Okay, so this week actually I'm going to do a reel, a very nice reel of me heading to a lovely event with more details to follow. So stay tuned for a reel, kind of like a what I do in a day kind of thing on my Instagram at Faith Brynel, and I'll be posting that in collaboration with my business account at Faith B Insights. So welcome back to yet another episode of Faith Brynel's Insights, where we delve into a range of different strategies and topics that really help you, help empower you as the listener to live a more fulfilled and productive life. We talk about mindset, we talk about resilience, imposter syndrome, burnout, study skills, Pomodoro method. So those are just a few things that we do. And then I also interview a range of guest speakers as well to share their inspirational, motivational, and interesting journeys with all of you. And so actually this week we have Carlo Weaver, the founder of Apprentigo, who will be speaking with us on Thursday. That episode will be live on Thursday, 12 p.m. BST. I actually recorded that today as well. So busy, and in preparation for classes tomorrow. So again, welcome to another episode of Faith Brynels Insights, the podcast where, again, we talk about these very interesting and important topics, really, that apply to all of us in terms of our everyday lives. I'm just going to move my mic to enhance the audio quality. Actually, this is another episode where I'm using Riverside FM instead of Zoom. I find that the quality is much clearer, so that's a little fun tip for any aspiring podcasters out there. So in today's episode, we're going to talk about and tackle a challenge that many of us might have faced or might face in the future or might be currently facing now. And that is the essence of time management. So in this episode, what I'm going to do is explore practical strategies, tips, and insights, because it is Faith Brynels Insights, to actually help you to master your time and make the most of every moment. Okay, so understanding your time. So first of all, before we actually understand about how we're going to have these strategies, we have to understand the foundation of effective time management. So, we always say to ourselves, we're going to learn how to ride a bike. We always start with stabilizers. And then once we have the stabilizer on the bike, once we feel more comfortable, we take those stabilizers off and then we start doing practices. And before we actually ride a bike on the road, we ride a bike maybe in our garden, we ride a bike maybe in the local park, etc. And so it's about learning that kind of balance and learning how to set the foundations first. So really, I think self-awareness is also a really important aspect in terms of managing your time effectively. And in terms of understanding your self-awareness, it's about understanding what things you have to complete in a given week, and then you can actually decide how am I going to effectively, plan my time out. So for example, I'll take it to myself, which is what I tell my students when I tutor with a company called Logos West Midlands CIC, which is my dad's company. So if you are interested in tuition, get in touch. So there's that as well. So I always tell my students, and I'm actually due to tutor a student today after I record this episode. So again, busy life. So actually what I talk about is when we have time management, it's about being aware of what we have to plan. So let's bring this to me, Faith Brynel. Okay, so I'm a master's student. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a churchgoer. I'm somebody who has hobbies. I want to spend time with family. I draw. I'm not a Picasso, but I draw in my spare time as well. I like to exercise, and things like that. So those are things I like to do. I have classes. I have classes every week for my masters. I have preparation to do for the masters. I have other tasks as well. For example, as an aspiring barrister, I like to attend different networking events as well in the legal sphere. I like to look for mini pupilages ahead of my pupillage. So, and then on the other hand, as an entrepreneur, I like to go to I find it vital and important to go to different, to different networking events. I went to one last week Monday, actually, a week ago today, run by Female Founders Rise in collaboration and partnership with Lloyds Bank. And actually, I'm going to a range of different events coming up for International Women's Day on the 8th of March. I'm going to an event this Friday as well, until Saturday. And I've got some other events coming up as well. So that's what I do. So when I'm looking at my time management, I'd say first and foremost, it's about understanding the tools and techniques. So once we've understood what we have to do, it's about understanding what's important. Now, this brings us into the Eisenhower matrix. Now, we talked about this a little bit a couple of weeks ago, but the Eisenhower matrix was, for a little bit of context, was actually developed by President Dwight Eisenhower. And he was actually kind of developed this called the Eisenhower technique. And really, what it has, the Eisenhower matrix rather, which is a technique, which actually helps you to break down your work into things that you have to do, things you have to delegate, things not to do, and things that you have to remove entirely. And I'm actually just going to reference that the Eisenhower matrix now on my screen. So the Eisenhower matrix is broken into 4 quadrants, and quadrant 1 pertains to the do. Okay, it's urgent. Okay, quadrant 2 is to decide, so it's to schedule a time to do it. So quadrant 3 is delegate, so who can do it for you, and quadrant 4 is delete. So let me take this to my life. Let me take it to the business side of my life, running FBI. Okay, so do now is we have an event coming up on March 12th called Legally Empowered. I have to do that now. Okay, right now I have to do that. Okay, and then moving on to the decide factor, scheduling a time to do it. Okay, there are things that I have to do. For example, I have to plan my other event, which I'm running in May, called Exam Wellness. I can schedule that to do that maybe in a month's time. Okay, and then I've got delegate, who can do it for me. So I might delegate. I'm actually in the process of looking for a social media intern. We've had a range of applications, actually about 50 applications. So I'm going to be looking through that now to delegate some other tasks to my interns. And I'm working with universities as well. And then delete, there are certain tasks I can delete from this particular week or this particular time, which I prefer to do, as opposed to deleting them completely. So I would say I'm going to delete doing, for example, we have an event in I'm going to move my mic again, everybody, because it's kind of irritating me. So let me move it close, that's better. So I'm going to delete an event in, let me think, September. We have an event called it's on careers, and we've got a range of different speakers, but I wouldn't be focusing on the September event ahead of the March event, which is in a couple of weeks. It wouldn't make any sense. So that's literally a kind of practical application of the Eisenhower matrix. So moving forward then, in terms of that, so what we also have to talk about is introduce the concept of time tracking and its benefits. So let me pivot here slightly. So I've talked about the importance of self-awareness. For example, I'm going to take it from the business perspective now. I'm running a business. I'm looking at self-awareness. I'm going to be getting interns using the Eisenhower matrix as well to delegate certain tasks. Now, I need to think about what tools and techniques I actually have to employ to be able to assess how I use my time and how to manage my time. So, number 1 I use, and this really ties into point number 3. Point number 3 is talking about the concept of time tracking and its benefits. So let's say we're talking about time tracking. I use a wonderful company that I've recently introduced my dad to called TimeCamp. So TimeCamp is a free software where I track my time. And I track my time spent on my masters, spent on whatever I do. For example, I know for my masters, I'm doing it part-time. I have to do 12 hours of independent study aside from the 4 hours of classes that we have in a given week. Okay, so that's what we have to do. Then I also know that I have to run my business. I have to do podcasting. For example, I interviewed Carlo today. I have to do event management. I have to make appearances at different events I've been invited to. I also have to do, I've been invited to do some speaking engagements. engagements I've got to prepare for as well. I've got to do some social media. I've got to delegate tasks and look for an intern. I'm also working with the Prince's Trust, formerly Prince's Trust, now King's Trust as well. And I'm also working with other companies as well to kind of build my business. So there's that to do as well. And so that's what I have to do. So what I actually do, I use Google Calendar. I use the what is it called? The synchronization tool. So I have my business emails hosted by Microsoft and Outlook. And what I then do is I combine my personal calendar, my Google Calendar in that, so that when I'm looking at my Outlook, my business emails, my personal emails, I can see both of all the tasks that I have to do pertaining to FBI, tasks pertaining to the masters, tasks pertaining to family time, if I'm helping out my parents, if I'm tutoring. It's those kind of tasks as well. And I find that that's very, very beneficial. And it helps me to have spare time as well, because I know, for example, every Sunday I go to church, that time is not going to be changed to do something else. And I know that on a Sunday I like to spend time with family, spend time with the Lord first, and so there's those times as well. I know I have other times. On a Tuesday I have classes, that time is allotted, it can't be changed. I know that there are other tasks and things and other commitments that I already have that will not be changed from certain times, so we go with that. I know that every Thursday we have a podcast episode at 12 p.m. BST, your GMT, and so that is not changed. Okay, so talking about prioritization. Now, I think a lot of people ask me, Faith Brynels, how can I really get into the art of prioritization? And, I have a lot of tasks I want to do, but I'm just not really getting them all done. And I find that the tasks that I want to do, I'm not doing. So this is my answer to you all. So really, this is about the art of choosing what matters most. And, it can be hard to let some things go, but I'll give you an example. When I first started Faith Brynels Insights, I actually started a blog and a podcast. And very quickly I realized that along with, I was still reading politics at King's. I think I was in my second year, or was it my first year? I was in one of those years, and it was getting quite stressful because I had to do my consolidation. I had to go to seminars, lectures. I had to study. I had to travel back to and fro from Birmingham and to London. I had to do other things as well. And I then had the blog to do. I think the blog was every Wednesday, and the podcast started. I think the podcast started off with every Monday. I don't remember, but it was quite a while ago. But quickly I realized that wasn't realistic. It wasn't plausible, and so I dropped the blog. Not because I didn't love blogging. It's because the numbers of the blog, I was reaching more people podcasting, and podcasting gave me. It was easier to do because at the time it wasn't a video podcast. I could just turn my microphone on, plug in my Blue Yeti microphone, etc. And I could just kind of podcast on topics that I really enjoyed. And then God gave me the idea of actually looking into doing video podcasting and also introducing guest speakers, which is what we did. And that took a lot of pressure off me as well, because not just pressure off me, yes, because I never had to think about topics to talk about, but also because I found that it was really beneficial to listeners to hear other people's perspectives and journeys and things like that. And so that's why I split now between the podcast. But at the time, it was easier to interview somebody, give them a set of questions, and actually I found that it was very interesting and I really love it. But now I now have that time. I now have developed. I've gone through the season of where I was really struggling back in first year. I was struggling to really segment and manage my time wisely, and I found, looking at other people, wow, they're doing they're members of societies and they're still doing well. How can I do it? And God gave me this revelation where I realized that I had to just obviously put God first and he'll do the rest, but also in what I could do, it was about looking at what I had to do, what things had to be done and what things didn't have to be done. And so me walking around Westfield every day, that hour could be spent doing something else. And so I said, oh, hang on, I'll walk around Westfield on a Saturday, or for example, I'll do badminton every Wednesday and Saturday, and then I'll go to Elephant and Castle, and then I'll go to Westfield, for example. Or maybe on days I don't have classes, I'll study on those days. And so that day that I've had a class, for example, I used to have a seminar every Monday in third year from 9 till 11. And so what I do is spend some time with friends, grab a coffee, have a little chat about the weekend, etc. And then I would kind of walk around Oxford Street for maybe a couple of hours, do a little bit of shopping for the winter, and then I'd just go back to my apartment and then study and kind of consolidate. And so I was still getting stuff done. And then in first year I was a member of the KCL UNA, and so I was able to do that in my evenings as well. And then I did badminton in third year on Wednesdays and Saturdays, but I had that time because I'd made that time. I started waking up earlier and using the times of the day, because there are actually 168 hours in a week, and so it's about using those hours accordingly. Now we can't use every single single hour, because we do have to make sure we have at least 8 hours of sleep, 8 hours of sleep a day, and then we have time for study. So once we take away everything we have to do, it gives us time for things. We understand then what time we actually have left. So yeah, I think I've done a lot. I think we've covered a lot in the last 14 minutes. So I'm going to wrap up soon. But I want to just talk about, I've talked about, so far, everybody, for those who have just tuned in, we've spoken about the Eisenhower matrix as a quick chapter reference. We've spoken about setting goals. So we're going to talk about setting goals. We've spoken about the Eisenhower matrix. We've spoken about how we need to identify what we actually have to do before we add additional. And then once we understand what we have to do, what are the kind of non-negotiables, things that have to be done in our week, things that can't be changed, we then look at ways to manage that, whether it be through the Eisenhower matrix, through using calendars, using time camp, whatever resources or softwares or kind of strategies that we employ. We have to make sure we have the right data, because if we're going to use a software but we input the wrong data, then the output will be incorrect. So whatever we give in is what we get out as well. And so I want to just talk about a little bit briefly. Let me take a little sip of water. Okay, so that actually really hydrated me. I needed that. So setting smart goals. So let's talk about, I think for me, I like to associate setting smart goals as a kind of a blueprint for success, really explaining kind of the SMART goal and criteria. So for those who aren't aware, or for those who are aware, just a quick refresher, SMART stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound, or some people say timely, depends how you term it, but that is the general gist. So I'd say SMART goals really help to contribute to effective time management. Why, Faith Brynel? Well, because when you have SMART goals, you're actually looking at either goal specific enough. So saying I want to run is not specific. Whereas if I say I want to run around my neighborhood, that is specific. Is it measurable? Okay, how am I going to measure it? I might buy a Fitbit, I might buy a smartwatch to measure it. I might log it in a journal, in a notebook. Is it achievable? Well, if I've done no running, if I'm not a runner and suddenly I want to run around the whole neighborhood, it might not be realistic. So we might want to start by running at the gym or running a shorter distance. And so it goes back to what we said at the beginning of today's episode. It's about laying the foundation, laying the right bricks first before we jump into what we want to achieve. Is it relevant? Do I need this? Is it timely as well? And so when we say timely, it's about understanding how much time we're allotting. So if I'm saying I want to run for let's say I want to run for a marathon, but I've done no running, I'm not fit, I'm not athletic, and I haven't even gone to, I can't even walk from A to B. Running might be too hard, it might be too difficult. But if you can start by walking at a brisk pace, then we transition slowly, timely into running. It is then more sustainable and it is plausible as a goal. And that's really the epitome and how we understand SMART goals. And really just finishing off really is one of my favorite Pomodoro techniques. And actually, little spoiler, you'll find that when I was interviewing Carlo, my life at notification alerted me that my time of study was up. But that was a really good time just to talk a little bit about the life at. Life at is my favorite Pomodoro method. It's like an online kind of virtual reality kind of simulator where basically you have, I love life at because you have different spaces. For example, one of the spaces I like is called the flower window, where basically it's a flower that you look at while you're studying or kind of making notes or highlighting your legal workbooks, for example. And then what you're also doing simultaneously is you're listening to the rain sound, just sounds of rain, very simple sounds. And that really basically I set how long I want to study. And so the Pomodoro method was created by Francesco Carrillo, and basically it is where you study for 25 minutes and then you do that for 4 times. In between you get a 10-minute break, and at the end you get a longer 10-15-minute break. And life at really is another way of doing that without having to do the 25 minutes yourself. They term it as an immersive workspace for task management, to really as they say, to achieve more, feel better, experience productivity. You can also do virtual spaces, Pomodoro timer, to-do lists as well, task management. You've got co-working as well. So my sister and I, Bethany, my sister and I, we actually sent each other a link so I can invite people to Faith's Room, which is what it's called. And what that actually does is give my sister an opportunity, and her and I, we work together. Or we used to go onto a Google Meet call, and we used to work and study together as well. So those are different ways I see that, working with others, working and studying with others can also be a really good way to actually enhance your productivity, because nobody wants to be the only person just sat there staring out while everybody's in deep study. And so it kind of encourages you to study. And I did engage in a lot of group study when I was at King's as well. So overcoming procrastination is one of the final topics. Yeah. Okay. Overcoming procrastination is something people always ask me about. It's kind of like procrastination. I have procrastinated in the past, and I now know what not to do and what to do. And I find that sometimes when you're procrastinating, it's because sometimes you don't understand the task or you find it difficult. And so what I will do now, I will segment it into different parts. So if I'm going to do an essay on a new topic, I will segment it into different parts. So one part being the research, one part being the analysis, one part making sure I understand it, then writing it. So I found that before, when I was maybe first year, etc., I might have procrastinated because I didn't actually understand a task, because I didn't have sufficient research on said task. But now, because I actually understand it, it kind of doesn't make me procrastinate. And also understanding the value of doing something. I now know I have goals. I have goals to become a barrister, and I know I have to do this masters in order to get there. And understanding your why can push you as well. But also making sure that you're not burnt out, making sure that you're not, stressed and worried, and making sure that you're also prioritizing your mental health is important as well. And so making sure that you have sufficient breaks, which is one of the primary reasons why I really uphold and support the Pomodoro method, is because it consistently gives me a break. Now, sometimes I will find it easy to study for over an hour like I did today. Other days it's kind of harder. So I might feel tired. It might be Friday, it might be Monday. I don't know, whatever day it is. I might have had a long night, or I might have had loads of things to do. So I use the Pomodoro method. I use the Pomodoro method every day, but it's about how effective you find it each day depends on how you're feeling as well. And so to break the cycle of procrastination, you have to also understand the root causes. So if I was a doctor and you came to me and you had these symptoms, I'd have to ask what your symptoms were and then diagnose it based on the symptoms. We have to understand what the issue is before we can treat it. And so the same goes to the studying. If you're procrastinating, we have to understand the root cause. And I know for myself, I used to procrastinate back in first year, etc., because I was not aware of what I was doing. When I started from A level, I was in the COVID cohort. I was kind of catapulted into this BA, and if it wasn't for the grace of God, I don't know where I would be. But seriously, it was about understanding. When I had like a topic, for example, we did something on let me think, just test my memory. So I did a European Union module, for example. Let's say we did something on the EU and Brexit, exactly, for example. I had to then delve deeply into Brexit, looking at the nuances, looking at the pros and cons, looking for those who are for and against, looking at the scholarship, looking at the kind of scholarly references. What is the scholarship telling me? What is the, what is the research on it, right? So I'm thinking back to that now. And so when I started to understand it, it helped me actually to conquer that and actually push myself as well. And so practical strategies would be making a task list. Actually, one of the books I've actually recommended is a to-do list. This is based off the Eisenhower Matrix. Another one is actually, I'm going to just try, because this is like literally a random pile of stuff on the right. That's why I've hidden it from the camera. This is my favorite color, green, but it's also a really important diary by a company called Learn with Bologna, which is my mum's company, and really good, really good, because it's giving me a daily planner, etc. It's giving me a weekly planner, so I use these in conjunction with one another. And also changing what you're reading as well. I think what you're reading is important. So first of all, looking at my reading list, I read the Bible first and foremost. My favorite scripture is I can do all things through Christ who strengtheneth me. That comes first. But looking at more into my studies now, I also am reading this book simultaneously, Atomic Habits by James Clear. And now, as I always say to everybody, I understand why it is an international bestseller with, at the time of printing, over 8 million copies sold. And so I understand it now. And I'm literally, you can see, when I read books, I like to make note. I like to highlight it as well. Let me just find it. So for example, this page is like really highlighted. I love highlighting and understanding the different concepts as well. So writing things down is definitely important. So this is my book. Let me take you through. This is the book I use for the title. Hang on, I'm in the dark. This is my 2024 networking event notebook. So when I go to network, this is the notebook I bring with me. Also, probably because sometimes you can't. I prefer writing it down for conceptualization, but also sometimes because as a woman, when I'm bringing my clutch bag, my strap bag, they're really small, and so bringing a book like this size probably wasn't going to work. This is my book. This is a business journal. I got this from from an expo. This is from the West Midlands Combined Authority, and it's really good. So I've written like tasks in here. I had a meeting with someone last week, written it in there. And then in this one's from Keating Chambers, which are the chambers for barristers. And yeah, that's really nice. And so I've got like a kind of, you can tell me which page I'm on as well. Then I also use, I have a lot of books, everybody. So yeah, so those are the books I primarily use. And then I've got other books as well. And I have a book for Bible study as well, which is over here. Some of I feel like if I stretch, it will just distort the camera so much. But I have another book for Bible study as well. So yeah, so it's about basically understanding the books that we're using and writing things down. Writing things down is really important. Don't rely on your brain to remember all of the things you've got to do, because your brain already has to remember things like, I don't know, wake up, set alarms, do grocery shopping, if you've got a pet, if you've got a child, those kind of things. So it's about understanding and writing things down as well. And finally, because this has been a more detailed episode than I intended it to be, but oh well, hopefully it's been useful for you all. I'd say tech tools for time mastery, apps and resources. Number one app is Time Camp. We talked about it before because you can track your time. Excellent, love it. Number two is Google Calendar. Again, really good as well. Number three is Life At. Life At is my all-time favorite Pomodoro style. Honestly, it's amazing. It's an amazing software. Number four, let me think about number four. Yes, number four is YouTube. Now, let me be more specific, because Faith, there's loads of stuff on YouTube. I'd say watching Study With Me videos where you can watch people studying and you kind of work and study with them. It's called Study With Me, and it'll be by that particular person. And you can study with them, and I think that's really important. Also, YouTube, watching videos from successful students will help you. And so when I was going back into, when I was kind of starting university, what I actually like to do is actually watch videos of people who have said, okay, I went from this to this grade by doing this. And so what I'm actually doing as well here at FBI, I've got a playlist of me at King. So stay tuned for me talking really in depth about how I got a 2-1. It's only by the grace of God, but I also had to put like some effort in as well, because my nan always says, do your best and God will do the rest. So I will show you how I did my best to do what I could do and how God really blessed me. Isn't he an amazing God? So yeah, so that's basically where we are. That's where we are. I think that was where we are. I think I've mentioned all my apps. If I forget an app, I will tell you. Let's take a couple seconds to think before I end this episode. Is there any other apps I can recommend to you all? Let me just scroll through my phone. Let's have a look at any other apps I can recommend you for looking at time management. Yes. Okay. Yes. If you have an iPhone, I recommend the focus mode. God is good to me. He just reminded me of that. The focus mode is good. So my focus mode consists of things like God, reading, law masters, podcasting, obviously sleep, personal, etc. So that's really good. You can set it for an hour, and it'll also correspond with your Apple Calendar. So for example, if I'd said like that I'm going to study contract law, for example, it will say, do you want to keep this focus on until the end of a event? That's really good as well. Let me see. Yes, Notion is a really good app as well for note taking. It's my favorite app. I used to use OneNote, but I prefer Notion now. I used OneNote throughout the entirety of King's, and I found that at that time it was good for me. It was really good for me actually, because the way King's was structured, we had lectures and seminars, and we had loads of other information to take in, and I felt that doing reading politics, that's really good. It is really good. But right now, where I stand now doing a master's in law, I prefer Notion because I get like Notion templates as well from others who kindly give them out for free. Shout out to them. And also, if you have, I want to just put this out to you. My sister Bethany, Chloe, she's amazing. She told me that actually, if you are a student, you get Notion education for free. So I've tapped into that. So do tap into that as well. And let me just see if there's any other apps on my phone that I think would benefit any of you for time management. And if you don't have any of these apps, literally you can just start a timer on your phone and do 25 minutes as well. That's also, and yes, countdown. Countdown is amazing. So if you have any assessments, any assignments to do, put them into countdown. It will remind you when it's due as well. You can even put the time when it's due. And I think, yes, I think that's it. I think that's it for the time management. Yes. Let me have a look. I'm saying yes, but I'm still looking. Let's have a look. Yes, and also if you want to use reminders by Apple, or if you want to use to-do list by Microsoft, both of those are good, and I've tapped into them periodically. But my favorites would be Notion, LifeAct, Google Calendar, and TimeCamp. Those are my favorite four, but I do love the other ones that I have mentioned. But it's about, for me, I can't use too many apps because it just becomes quite can become quite long. So I like to kind of shortlist my apps. So that is a very, very in-depth episode about how to manage your time. Okay, so remember that effective time management is a skill that can be developed and refined. I didn't always have skills of time management, as I said, when I was in first year, moving from A level to BA level was a shock in the system because it was COVID cohort, but I had to quickly adapt. It was sink or swim, and I thank God, thanks to the grace of God, as they always say, I swam. I did not sink. Yes, so by understanding your priorities, setting clear goals, so using the SMART goal acronym, using the Eisenhower matrix, you can really, and then implementing these practical techniques, so the Pomodoro method, the Eisenhower matrix, you can master your time and achieve your objectives. So thank you again for joining us on the Faith Brynels Insights podcast. I'm Faith B, and I'm committed to helping you live your most organized life. So stay tuned for more insights. Do follow us at Faith B Insights. Follow me at Faith Brynel. Connect with me on LinkedIn, TikTok, Twitter, Facebook. Connect with me on them all if you want. Feel free to reach out as well if you have any questions, or feel free to give a review if you've loved it. And then also feel free to check out our resources available on faithbrynelsinsights.etsy.com, and they're available on Amazon at Faith Brynels Insights, the very name of the podcast as well. And I know that I have that a lot of people have been enjoying the new resources that we've brought out, which is a Cornell how-to, the Cornell, and the mind map notebook. So those are some of the new ones. So yes, this is it. I will not keep you any longer. Do stay tuned again. Though this is Monday, do stay tuned on Thursday. There will still be an episode on Thursday, because that will feature Carlo Weaver, the founder of Apprentigo, where we're going to hear his amazing motivational and inspirational journey from homelessness to the CEO of Apprentigo. So that is what we're going to be talking about on Thursday. And then moving on forward, we have an event on March 12th called Legally Empowered. It's sold out on Eventbrite, but if you'd like to attend, please do follow me on LinkedIn via Faith Brynels Insights or Faith Brynel Pommel, and you'll find those links as well. So yes, have a great day. Remember, it's not an event, it's a journey. Manage your time wisely, but you can manage your time wisely, by doing the following that we've spoken about, and have a great day. And remember, it's not an event, it's a journey. Your journey can begin now. And don't be too hard on yourself. Remember, I know that imposter syndrome does exist, but you are able to do it, that you have the ability, believe in yourself, and you will see these changes start to flow. And it's always easier when you have a structure by which you want to follow as well. So have a great day, everybody, and have a great week. Bye-bye.